Packing medication for travel seems simple until airport security confiscates your expensive, life-saving medicine for making one tiny mistake that 90% of travelers don't even know about. There are 7 specific medicine packing traps that can get you stopped cold in the airport, not just in TSA, but in international customs as well. Today I'll explain every single one so that you can fly with your meds stress-free. We'll break these medication traps into 5 sections. Little known mistakes that happen a month before you even pack, domestic travel rules most travelers get wrong, international travel mistakes that can land you in huge trouble, returning home to an unpleasant surprise that TSA doesn't warn you about, and free resources that'll make your life 10 times easier. Let's start with a trap that trips people up before they even think about starting packing. The first trap is just thinking you can grab your meds and go, when in reality, the critical work happens weeks before your trip starts. If you're traveling with prescription medications that you can't afford to lose, you're gonna wanna schedule a doctor's appointment 1 month before your trip. That way they can calculate and prescribe the exact amount of meds that you need to cover your entire trip, plus a few extra days in case you have any flight cancellations or delays. Then, depending on how many meds you need and your type of insurance, you may need to call them and ask for a vacation override so that you can get extra early refills. And from there, you need to make sure that your pharmacy actually has enough stock. Any of these steps could potentially cause delays, which is why it's important not to wait until the last minute. Plus, certain international destinations require you to fill out a form weeks in advance requesting permission to enter with certain types of medications. We'll cover these forms in a second, but it's just another reason why you should start this process 3 to 4 weeks before your trip. This also gives you a little buffer time in case you realize that you need any recommended or required vaccines for your specific destination. Because remember, some vaccines require multiple doses with time in between each dose. For example, my mom came to visit me in Colombia a few months ago, and she realized at the last second that it was recommended to get the yellow fever vaccine, but she didn't have enough time to do the doses. So she just had to risk it. If you're carrying controlled substances, large quantities, or anything hard to replace abroad, the US Department of State recommends getting a formal doctor's letter to carry just in case. It should include your medical condition and all of your medications, including doses, brand and generic names for your medicine, any special storage instructions, your doctor's contact information, and your pharmacy info. For international trips, use original labeled containers and make sure that your prescriptions and letters that you get have your full legal name on it that matches your passport so you can avoid confusion and delays in the airport. These documents and letters aren't necessarily legal requirements for travel, but the US Department of State recommends them, and they could really save you if you run into an airport security agent with a stick up their butt. But sometimes even having a formal doctor's letter won't be enough to get your medications into certain countries, and we'll cover those cases in a second. Make sure to keep the hard copy of all these documents safe, and it's also a good idea to snap pictures of them so you have digital copies as well. I've always just thrown my medical documents into a Ziploc bag, but if you want to be a little bit more fancy and careful, you can also store these in a family-sized waterproof passport pouch, which will keep everything organized and protected, and I'll link one down below. Okay, so now let's talk about the traps that are waiting for you at the TSA checkpoint. These ones are specific to flying inside of the United States, and they catch people off guard every single day. The first is not understanding the liquids rule as it applies to medication. Most people mistakenly think that all of your liquids, including medications, must follow the 3-1-1 liquids rule. This is that tiny bottle rule where all liquids need to fit into a 3.4 ounce bottles packed into 1 quart-sized clear bag. But the reality is that medically necessary liquids and creams are exempt from this 3.4 ounce limit. This isn't just for prescription medicines either. It also includes many over-the-counter medicines that you probably have in your cabinet at home. We're talking things like saline solution for your contacts, cold and cough syrups like Dayquil, medically necessary creams like Neosporin or hydrocortisone cream, and even pain relief gels like Icy Hot. You get the idea. That said, you can't just throw them in your bag willy-nilly and hope for the best. When you're going through airport security, you need to remove all of these items, place them in a separate bin, and verbally declare them to the TSA officer. Just say something like, "I have these medically necessary liquids." That's it. Now, this isn't a free pass to bring along 10 gallons of cough syrup though. The technical rule is that you're able to bring a reasonable quantity for your flight, which is up to the discretion of the TSA agent. And while it's not required, it's helpful to pack everything into a clear plastic bag just for your medication and medical supplies. Think of it as your medical kit and keep it separate from your 311 toiletry bag. This makes it easy for TSA officers to quickly identify what's medical and what's not, which avoids confusion and speeds up your screening process. And if you need to keep your medications cool, gel packs and ice packs are also exempt from the liquids rule, and it does not matter if it's melted or frozen. This rule is often confused because in normal cases, a ice pack does need to be frozen, otherwise it must meet the 311 liquids rule, but this rule is overridden if the gel pack is being used to cool down medically necessary items. Normally, all of your meds are gonna go through the x-ray scanner, but if for some reason you have a sensitive medication that will get damaged if you put it through the x-ray, then you can request that they inspect it in a different way. The next mistake is one that can literally separate you from your life-saving medication, and that is packing your medications in your carry-on bag that you take with you onto the plane. The problem is on full flights, which is basically every flight these days, the airlines can force you to gate check your carry-on bag. And if you forget that your meds are in there that you need on your flight, they're gonna end up in the cargo hold that can experience extreme temperatures and damage that medication, all while you're stuck in seat 23B having a panic attack. The solution is to always pack all essential medications in your personal item bag, which is the bag that goes under the seat in front of you in the plane and never gets taken away from you. And obviously you'd never want to pack important medicines in your checked bag either, because if it gets lost or delayed, then you'll be in a little bit of a pickle. Now, for those of you traveling with medical devices like a CPAP machine, insulin pump, pacemakers, and those types of things, the most common mistake is simply not understanding the screening procedures. This causes unnecessary stress and delays and is easily avoidable. Here's the two major things to remember. First, never pack essential medical devices in your checked luggage where they can get lost or damaged. And second, know that you are not required to detach or remove any medical devices that are attached to your body, like a CGM or insulin pump or those types of things. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. When you get to the front of the security line, simply inform the TSA officer of your device, whether it's on your body or in your bag, before screening begins. For example, I have an implanted device that keeps my heart pumping and essentially makes me a cyborg. I just tell the security agents that I have this before going through any metal detectors, which I'm not supposed to go through, and they normally just point me to walk around the side of the metal detector where they can give me a good old-fashioned pat down. This takes maybe 2 extra minutes in the process, and I just always make sure that I send my wife through the security line first so that she can watch all of our stuff while I'm getting the pat down. For detailed rules on every single device, the best resource is the official TSA website. I'll link directly to their disabilities and medical conditions page so that you can avoid any surprises at the checkpoint. Before we get into packing medications for international travel, which can have some even bigger pitfalls, I have a question for you. I think we all know that with airport security, the rules can say one thing, but what we actually experience in real life can be totally different. So I want to hear your take and if you've had any frustrations or surprises when trying to go through TSA. Share your story down in the comments to help other travelers like you avoid problems. Okay, now on to international travel where things can get a little bit tricky. The first thing you should understand is when a pill organizer can be your best friend and when it can be your worst enemy. For domestic US travel, it can be your best friend. The TSA allows these for domestic flights so you can leave your huge collection of bottles at home, save a bunch of packing space, and stay organized on your trip. If you're worried about not carrying the original bottles, you can always snap pictures of them and just in case, but the TSA doesn't really care what pills you have. Their job is to find security threats. So for a week-long trip to another state, for example, a good travel-friendly pill organizer can make your life way easier. I would avoid those common ones that just snap open and close because they might accidentally pop open in your bag and spill your pills everywhere. Instead, I like this drawer-style option that's super discreet to carry around, or this modular option that lets you screw off just the days that you need so that you can easily fit it in your pocket and you don't have to carry around your whole week's worth of pills when you go out exploring for the day. I'll link to both of these below. But here's the trap. For international travel, these pill organizers become your worst enemy. Unmarked pills are a massive red flag for international customs agents who can't identify them. This can lead to confiscation, questioning, and potentially even legal trouble. One time I was standing around in the baggage claim area with all of our bags waiting for my wife Diane to go to the bathroom when a customs agent came up to me and forced me to come back with him into some back room so he could inspect both of our bags. Unfortunately for me, we had just been in Sri Lanka where Diane was doing a bunch of Ayurvedic medicine treatment, so she had a bunch of these unmarked creams and bottles in her backpack. The agent kept grilling me, asking what each container was in the bag, and I literally had no idea. And let me tell you, there is nothing more suspicious sounding than saying, "I don't know, officer, it's not mine, I swear." They ran some tests on them and eventually they let me go. But even though I knew that we didn't have anything illegal in our bags, I was sweating like a hog. So like I said earlier, for international trips, it's a good idea to keep all of your medicines in the original labeled pharmacy containers. Now let me get real with you for a second. If you just want to pack a little plastic baggie with a couple ibuprofens and anti-diarrhea medicine or something with a twisty tie, instead of lugging around those giant family-sized bottles from your house, you're probably not going to have problems, and I've done this for years, but technically you're opening yourself up to some potentially stressful situations. So do it at your own risk. Also, the pill organizers that I mentioned earlier still can come in handy during these trips, but just don't use them while you're passing through the airport. The next trap is what I like to call the ignorant American assumption, which is basically assuming that if something is legal or has a prescription in the US, then that automatically means it's legal everywhere else. This assumption could land you in jail. For example, in Japan, there's several types of medicines, including some medicines that you can get over the counter in the US that are considered illegal and can get you arrested. One that you need to be careful with is pseudoephedrine. This is a common ingredient in cold medicines like Sudafed and Vicks inhalers, and it's considered illegal there. Mexico is also pretty strict with pseudoephedrine as well. Stimulants like Adderall, Ritalin, and other ADHD meds are banned in certain countries in Asia and the Middle East, and common sleep aids like Ambien are strictly controlled in places like Singapore. In fact, in Singapore, even chewing gum that's purchased abroad is not allowed in the country. The solution to this trap is to never assume anything. Research all the meds that you plan to pack on the official embassy website of the destination that you're visiting and any layover countries. Don't rely on any travel blogs or forums. You want to go straight to the official source. Many of these stricter countries even have tools on their website which will help you determine if your meds are allowed or if you need to request special permission ahead of time. If you're finding this information useful, please hit the like button so it gets shown to more travelers like you, and subscribe for more tips on how to travel safer and smarter. By the way, if you're thinking about traveling with a little Mary Jane, think again. Even if you have a medical marijuana card, you live in a state where it's legal, or you're traveling to a state where it's legal, all marijuana and most CBD products containing more than 0.3% TCH are federally illegal for air travel. The TSA won't necessarily search you for it because their job is only to protect from security threats, but if they find it, they'll report it to law enforcement. So basically, just don't risk it. It's not worth the stress or the hassle. Next, we have a mistake that catches even the most experienced travelers off guard, and that is thinking that a prescription and a doctor's letter is all you ever need. In reality, multiple countries now have a mandatory online pre-approval process. And if you don't get digital pre-clearance when it's required, your medicines will be denied entry even if you have a doctor's letter. That means if you're traveling to countries like Japan, UAE, or Singapore, make sure to check if your medicine type or quantity requires pre-approval and then apply well in advance. These applications can sometimes take weeks to process, so if you wait until the last second, it could be a trip-ending mistake. Another hot tip for international travel is to always plan a way to have instant internet access when you arrive in your destination, just in case you need to access your digital documents or translate a medication or contact your doctor. Unreliable airport Wi-Fi won't cut it when dealing with customs officials, so I recommend setting up a travel eSIM like Olafly before you leave home so that you have a data connection on your phone as soon as you land, and I'll leave my discount code for a travel eSIM down in the description. Now on to some potentially unpleasant surprises that you could face when returning home to the US with your medication. Just because you successfully passed through airport security on your flight home doesn't mean you're in the clear. Here's an example. Let's say that you do your pre-planning research for a long trip and you realize that your prescription medications are easy to buy over the counter in the country that you're traveling to, which is the case for a lot of the countries that I've traveled to. The problem is it's generally illegal for US citizens to bring back medications that were purchased in a foreign country, apart from a few exceptions, even if it's the same exact medication that you take back home. This has nothing to do with the TSA and happens when you're passing through US customs, which handles import laws. That means it's best to only travel home with medications that you bought from home unless you've done your due diligence research to make sure that you're not gonna have problems. When you do arrive to the US, declare any controlled substances that you're carrying to the CBP officer and always be honest and upfront. It's much less risky to declare something upfront and then realize that it wasn't allowed than to not declare anything and have customs find it and think you were trying to hide it. I know everything I covered so far can sound a bit stressful, but fortunately the TSA provides some amazing resources that most people don't even know exist. First, there's the My TSA app. It has a Can I Bring feature, which lets you search for any item to see what the official rule is. And you can even pull it up at the TSA checkpoint if there's an officer that's giving you trouble. Second is Ask TSA on social media. You can message their Facebook or X accounts with your questions and get quick responses from real people. Third is the TSA downloadable medical card, which is basically this little card that you can print out and write out your medical condition on it and hand it to the TSA officer when you're going through the security line so you can be more discreet and don't have to sit there explaining everything to them. Next is TSA Cares, which is a helpline where you can call 72 hours before your flight and they can arrange for a support specialist to guide you through airport security. You do not need any diagnosed conditions to be able to use this service. Just being a nervous traveler is a perfectly valid reason. And as the cherry on top, I created a free checklist that you can download down in the description that covers every step that we talked about in this video, including a timeline on when you should do each thing. Making sure your medicine is packed correctly is only half of the battle though. The other half of the battle is making sure that you're packed correctly, meaning what you wear to the airport. Something as simple as your clothing choice can trigger extra screening in TSA and cause serious delays. And the biggest mistake people make has nothing to do with wearing metal belts or steel-toed shoes. To find out what you should absolutely never wear to the airport, watch this video next. You might be surprised at some of the clothing items you should avoid. All right, guys, like, subscribe, do the things. Love you. Bye-bye.